All right, it's 7:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, December the 6th, 2024. Tomorrow, just to give you some reference, it's going to be Liam Paro, IBF 140-pound champion, taking on his mandatory Richardson Hitchins. We're also going to talk about during this, I guess you could say part two of this Aussie boxing podcast on what's going on with Tim Tszyu, even though there's not any real news right now. Kambosos is looking to fight the winner of Paro versus Hitchins, who has recently signed with Matchroom, meaning George Kambosos. And we have a new heavyweight on the scene. And forgive me if I butcher his name, but they have it listed here on BoxRec as Terra Moana Jr. You know, Moana 2 just came out. My daughter wants to go see that. But anyway, he signed with Matchroom. And what else do we have on the docket? Oh, and some interesting broadcasting news going on with the main broadcaster of pay-per-view boxing over in Australia, main event in DAZN. So I'm going to let Big J explain that. But first, Big J wants to give a shout out to his little girls and their birthdays. Go ahead, Big J.
Yeah, so big birthday for my eldest girl. She turned 18 on the 5th. So, yep, she's now an adult. Yay for me. And my third daughter turned 11 yesterday. Well, actually, still the 6th in the States, but it's the 7th in Australia. So here's a tip, people. If you're going to have your children, have them in December, because that way you can do Christmas birthdays in one hit. So happy birthday to my beautiful girls. My eldest girl, Isabella's 18, and my third girl, Ava, is 11. So if you guys could give us a shout out in the comments for my girls, that would be greatly appreciated. But let's get down to business.
All right, yeah. So both Liam Paro and Richardson Hitchins made weight. Liam Paro weighed in at 139.6. And Richardson Hitchins 139.8. The card's going to be broadcast on DAZN starting at about 8 p.m. Eastern here. And as we talked about in the previous video, we're not going to go into too many details, but the fight is happening in Puerto Rico of all places. And the undercard, nothing really. I mean, it's going to be a fun card of prospects. As you can see, a whole lot of undefeated fighters there. In fact, every fighter on the A side is undefeated. You know, but I am looking forward to see Mark Castro fight. I'm interested to see where he's going to go in his career, Jalil Hackett. But I'm going to go ahead and say, here's the thing. I'm still 50-50 on Paro Hitchins. I'm not here. I just don't feel confident saying Richardson Hitchins is going to win. It doesn't roll off the tongue. However, Paro, even though he had that, well, listen, I'm not going to say even though, he had arguably the biggest upset of the year against Subriel Matias, where a lot of people thought he was going to get his head knocked off. But he ended up beating Subriel Matias. Subriel Matias fought a few weeks ago, also in Puerto Rico, after having a fallout with Matchroom. We don't know what happened, but this was supposed to be a rematch between both of the fighters. So your thoughts on the fight?
Well, I mean, the only comparison that we have is, didn't Richardson Hitchins fight the same Cuban bloke that floored Paro in the first round? Didn't they both fight the same guy?
Hold on, let me check. Who we talk? Oh yeah, Alamo. Yes, he stopped him and then he stopped him in 8. Yeah. Paro went split decision.
Hitchinson's. But I've watched that fight. Paro got knocked down, flash knocked down in the first round, and then got up and beat the shit out of him. So it was hardly a split decision. I think I remember that was a bit of.
Yeah, I remember. We were looking at the cards and we thought it was a shutout. By the way, they fought. Paro fought him in December 2021, and Richardson Hitchins fought him November that next year.
Yeah. So, but I'm with you. I think this is really a 50-50 fight, is because the only scale that we've got to go off is the Cuban guy, and that's pretty much.
He was the top. He was the boogeyman. Yeah, he was, arguably the number 140 pounder at the time, in a lot of people's eyes.
I mean, Liam's got the big win over, Subriel Matias, but we all know there's that when people get the big win, the big upset, how many of them actually go on to have long, successful careers? Not really that many. They're normally one and done. I mean, Buster Douglas is the greatest example.
Yeah.
Knocked out Mike Tyson, and then Evander Holyfield kicked the living shit out of him.
Yeah.
So, and if you go through history and look at all the big upsets, when Leon Spinks beat Ali, lost the rematch. Ruckman knocked out Lewis, lost the rematch. They're all one and done. So.
And earlier this year, Richardson Hitchins struggled big time with Gustavo Lemos, and Keyshawn Davis, a fighter that's on a lower rung than Richardson Hitchins at the time, dominated him, knocked him out. So, that's also something there to pay attention to. By the way, Hitchins is only 27, and Liam Paro, how old is he? Liam Paro is 28 years old.
28.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other factor. Hitchins is going to struggle with that rehydration clause because I don't think. Well, he hasn't. He hasn't come up against that where Liam has. So, as you know, IBF, you're only allowed to gain 10 pounds on fight day.
Yeah.
So, that's something Richards has not come up against yet, even though both of them looked good on the scales. I think Hitchins looked a bit more drained than Liam, even though he weighed in a little bit more.
Yeah, he did. Usually for me is when you look in the fighter's face. I have it here. For those who have noticed, thank you. I've upgraded to full high definition here, 60 frames per second, so you can look into Richardson Hitchins' face, and also when they're chewing that gum like that. Throughout the years, I've noticed when fighters are, chomping down on that gum during the weigh-in, I'm going to look up. I forgot what the reason is, but there's a reason why they do that, and it's related to weight in some way, shape, or form.
Well, if you read on a gum packet, it says too much, overuse of gum can have a laxative effect.
There you go.
Like all gum packets say that.
There you go.
So, yeah, so if you have too much gum, it'll.
But yeah, he's looking in great shape. So, moving on, what do you know about this heavyweight Tera Moana?
Tera Moana, as I said, he was the Australian super heavyweight at the amateurs. Went to the Olympics, got through to the second round. Come up against, I think, the Kakistani. Whoever the bloke that won the gold medal, he come up against him and unfortunately lost. So he got a knockout in the first round. I think he knocked out old mate in round number 2. And then he went on to fight the world champion, I think was a Kakistani bloke who went on to win the gold medal. Got beat by him, and that was pretty much his Olympic campaign over.
Okay, so, well, he's fighting. He's going to be fighting. Let me see. When is he fighting? He's fighting in a couple of weeks. On the next weekend on the 14th on a Matchroom card in Monte Carlo. I'm going to be watching this card. I'm going to be in the house. It's going to be headlined by Marjan Akhmadaliev versus Ricardo Espinoza Franco, and then you have the return of Maxie Hughes also on that card. It's one of the lower level Matchroom cards over in Monte Carlo. Remember Golovkin years ago used to fight there quite a bit. So going to be paying attention to him. And before we get to George Kambosos and wrap up with whatever we know about what's possibly going on with Tenzou, you were telling me the other day about something going on with the DAZN and main event and broadcasting over there, which may be the reason why their Matchroom is signing up all these Australian fighters.
Well, I've read in the articles, and there's been some articles, and there's been some buzz around that Matchroom, DAZN, not Matchroom. DAZN is looking at purchasing the majority share of Foxtel, which is Main Event's parent company or broadcaster, right? To where they'll own the majority share of Foxtel in Australia, which means DAZN will control what actually goes on that broadcast station.
Interesting.
So as we know, No Limit has the exclusive deal with Fox Sports and Main Event, which means, in order to get on a Main Event pay-per-view, No Limit must be involved in some way, shape, or form. I mean, go back to George Kambosos, Lomachenko earlier in the year in Perth, right? Even though No Limit had pretty much bugger all to do with it, their logo was still in all the print bills, and they were getting a percentage of that because they've got this exclusivity deal with Foxtel. So the DAZN Matchroom fights used to appear on Main Event, but now since the DAZN's come along in Australia, that no longer happens. So Paro Hitchins in Australia will not be on Main Event tomorrow. It's on the DAZN subscription, whatever price Eddie's charging. First it was $3, now it's like 30-something bucks or whatever it is now. So you won't be able to go to Main Event to watch any Matchroom fights at the moment. But if that changes, if the DAZN purchases the 65% share of it, which is, there's been articles and stuff floating around, the whole demographic of Australian boxing will change because No Limit could possibly be on the way out because Matchroom already has feeder promotions like Tasman Fighters and Ace Boxing, right? If they buy out Foxtel, what are they going to need No Limit for?
Yeah.
Or they might bring No Limit in to be another feeder promotion to feed all the Australian talent onto Matchroom, because then Matchroom will have the three biggest promotions in Australia, which is obviously No Limit's number one, Ace Boxing and Tasman Fighters. Have all the, because if you look at it, and as we know, how many world champions does No Limit have at the moment?
Yeah, there you go. Zero. Yeah, they're rebuilding.
So zero. How many does Ace Boxing have? Like, hang on, Liam's Ace Boxing, Jai's Tasman, Sky's Ace Boxing. George is neither. He's just been snapped up by Matchroom. George was his own entity.
But basically, you can see that he's under that banner now, though.
He's under that banner now. So, it looks like Matchroom is trying to take over the Australian demographic, which worries me a little bit, because I don't think Eddie knows that much about the demographic, but the Angelo DiCarlos and the Mick Francises and the people running their own promotional companies certainly do. So, because I questioned the other day why Jai Bataille versus old mate Sin Cara is on a Wednesday. The reason for that is that Magic Millions is on that week, which is a very famous horse race on the weekend. But during the week they have horse auctions. It's a big horse event, whatever you want to call it, on the Gold Coast during the week, where they buy and sell horses. They have a big race meet on the weekend. So they're having it on the Wednesday night as not to compete with the horse racing events that's going on during that time. Because if they would have it on a Sunday like they normally would, everyone's going to horse races. No one ain't going to turn up to a boxing match. That's why they're having it on Wednesday. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So of course you got the news, as we talked about, that George Kambosos is signed with Matchroom, and he's officially at 140 now. Remind me what happened when he said he was never going to 140. Then he kind of backtracked. You have two different interviews with him where he was conflicting statements. What happened there?
Well, I first spoke to him about 140 against the second Haney fight. He said he wasn't doing it. That was 2 years ago. So.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said to him the Lomachenko fight, like, you're not going to 140. I said, I never said that. I'm like, well, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Because I've got it on. Because we've got it on date. So, but there's no need to worry about.
I'm not sure how he'll do at 140. Teofimo Lopez said that he offered him a deal, but and Kambosos turned it down. But somebody can say they offered you a deal, and it can only be they offered you $1. You see what I'm saying? So it's too much vague information about that. But right now, he's ranked number 9 by the WBO. Teofimo, we don't know what he's doing. He's flirting with going to 147 pounds, but he's been all over the place. Let me see. He is just currently ranked by the WBO at 140 pounds. So he's been linked to a fighter. I forgot the guy's name. Sounded French. It was a fighter he was linked to when he returned. And what were you hearing about when he does return? Would it be March?
I heard like February.
Okay. Yeah, I would imagine Matchroom's going to get him out sooner.
Before Riyadh season finishes, so I think February 22nd or something. One of my broadcast mates told me about that, but I can't. He did mention a name, but I can't remember who it was.
Well, there's the Riyadh season card on February the 22nd, and Matchroom, Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren was ringing Turkey Al-Sheikh, basically saying because he wanted to put 2 more fights on the card. And they were like, listen, do you want this card to run 9 hours again? So he took them off, and he's going to probably be putting them on in March. So maybe Kambosos can end up on that card, but it won't be February the 22nd. I can't see him getting on that Riyadh season card. That card's already set.
No. Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. So, I'm a little concerned how George is going to go, because he's a small lightweight.
He is.
So how's he going to go? See, George is one of those blokes that would struggle to make 130, makes 135, but it's too small for 140. So
yeah, that's what I'm looking at, because the 140 pounders like Alberto Puello, he's a big 140 pounder. He's going to be fighting Sandor Martin. Jose Venezuela Arroyo, he's a big 140 pounder. He's supposed to be fighting Gary Antoine Russell. Liam Paro's no small dude. And then you got Teofimo Lopez, who can easily compete at 154 pounds. You know, we saw the size difference despite what happened in the fight. We saw the size difference when they fought.
Yeah, definitely. So, but I mean, only time will tell. It's like everything. George has to prove his worth in the ring. It's as simple as that. So yeah, you can throw out all these theories and whatever until he gets into the ring and fights somebody. You don't know how he's going to go.
Yeah.
So,
you got some news on what was going on with Mick Zarafa. It was rumors that he was going to be signing with Matchroom to fight Liam Smith.
Yeah, well, signing with Matchroom, I'm pretty sure that's confirmed. Yeah, Liam Smith was supposed to be his first opponent. I think it was supposed to be around the same time, maybe the March card, but Liam wanted more time, and I believe that fight is not happening anymore. So, because Zarafa cannot sit around and wait for a Zoo fight that's possibly never going to happen.
Yeah.
He needs to stay active. I mean, having not even 3 rounds in the space of, I think in his last 3 fights would have been lucky to have gone 6 rounds.
Just pulled up his resume. Yeah, and
2 rounds with Lara. Who's the bloke?
Well, he did go 10 with Creedy, but you know that was over 2 years ago.
That was a lackluster performance.
Yeah, that was over 2 years ago. And then before that, Isaac Hartman, he sparked him in 2.
Sparked him in 2 rounds. Yeah, so he hasn't really had a decent win since the first Jeff Horn fight.
Yeah.
So, because his Isaac Hartman fight has not aged well at all.
No.
So, because Hartman's been knocked out, twice since then?
Yeah, and lost his last fight. Yeah, March, yeah.
And by guys that he should have probably easily beat. So, yeah, I mean, it's Zarafa cannot sit around. He cannot sit around and wait for his.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's still as young as he is. From the been around so long, he's only 32 years old, and just pissing away, his time.
Yeah, well, exactly. That Peter Quinlan fight was 10 years ago. Would you believe?
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, but he cannot muck around because time is not on his side. He's on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
So, and he's starting to creep up on the wrong side of 35. I mean, every major fight that he has, he's lost and been beaten badly. I mean, every world title shot he's had, he's been knocked out cold.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's not a lot of things left for him to do. And sitting around waiting for a Zoo fight, which may never come, you can't sit around and do that. So you've got to keep active. As we said, the active fighter is the dangerous fighter. The more active you are, the more dangerous you become.
Yeah, as we are moving on, since we're short on time to wrap up with what's going on with Tim Tszyu, he's got something coming up January the 18th. Basically, it's an evening with Tim Tszyu. I'm guessing gonna have dinner, give some speeches, maybe some roasting, maybe some charity. But what's been going on with him? We still haven't heard anything yet about a possible return, him and his brother.
I haven't heard anything. I said both of them are going to be out to at least March. Tim probably till June. So, because as we know, Nikita hurt his hand in the Colin Mazzutia fight.
Mm-hmm.
Tim's not going to come back until probably June. So we're not going to hear anything from those boys for at least 3 to 6 months. Because what's it now? Early December.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would not be worried about them for a good 3 to 6 months.
Yeah,
so
we can wrap that up right
I
there.
think anything's going to happen. I think anything's going to happen, and nor should it. Nikita needs time to heal his hand. Tim needs time to get past the 2 losses that he's had. Because if they come back too quick, someone barrels them over in 3 rounds, then what? So
yeah,
I think they need to, stay out of the ring for a bit. I mean, it's not like No Limit can't put on other cards. I mean, look how strong their card is next week. So without a Zoo appearing on the card, it's extremely strong. So, No Limit has the ability to put on very, very strong cards without the Zoos. So they're fine. So
yeah, we will be here covering their next card. When is their next card again? Remind me of the date.
Next week.
We're gonna be here for that. I'm gonna find the broadcast details, and we're gonna be covering that fight. Hopefully, I doubt we're gonna get it broadcast here in the States, but I will try. All right, closing thoughts, and we got what's his name again? McAllister.
Joey McAllister.
Yeah. So what's going on with that? What's going on there?
This dickhead, he's a gutless one to chump mama's boy who's 30 years old, still living at home with his mother, right? He's a journo mate of mine, right? I met this knucklehead about a year and a half ago. He reckons he can take me out. Have you got the picture up there on the screen?
Yeah.
Look at this skinny little runt. One punch, I'll make his back crack, his knees freeze, and his liver quiver. I mean, I'll break him in half. I've got 20 kilos on him. He reckons that he can take me out, and I'm just laughing at him. So anytime you've got the balls, McAllister, which you don't, because you know you'll get your head kicked in, get George Rose on the phone and we'll make it happen. So this has been a long-running joke feud that we've got going on. I don't believe for a second that he's got the balls to get in the ring with me. So, and if he does, I'll crack him out in less than 30 seconds. So, you know, just to let the people know that this knucklehead reckons he can take me out. He's like 15 years younger than me. I don't give a flying fuck. So, he's a bloody Gen Z. He's automatically a pansy. So the fuck out. What do you think? How quick do you reckon I can knock this punk out?
I don't know, man. You got the weight, but you know, you're getting a little older now. You know, you're talking about your joints and your knees.
My knees are good, man. My knees are good. So don't worry. Look, bloody Gen Z, mate. Your stiff breeze will blow them over, mate. Don't worry about it.
All right. Closing thoughts.
Oh, mate, I'm looking forward to it. Richards, I really think that I hope that Liam really puts in a surprising performance tomorrow because he needs to make an emphatic statement. And as we know, it's in Matchroom's best interest for Liam to win that fight because they're all talking about it. And I saw something on Twitter the other day about it. Is that Liam, George? I mean, this is what Eddie wants. It's already written on the board. It just needs to happen. Card with Jai headlining. Then Liam fighting George, then Sky defending her belt against whomever, then Turamura, and then Zarafa. All those all those fine people on the same card in Australia. Which, I mean, that's a stadium fight. You can hold it at Suncorp. So,
from my side, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, if Paro's able to pull it off, here would be the resume for his last 4 fights: Brock Jarvis, Montana Love, Sabril Matiz, and Richardson Hitchins. Despite what you think of Brock Jarvis and Montana Love, those are some good names to have on the resume, you know, if you just for 4 straight fights. And then if he goes on to fight Kambosos and gets that scalp, you know, already, you know, he's racking up a pound for pound resume. So he's creeping up. You know, but we will be here tomorrow night, be covering the fight. I'm going to be here covering this card along with the top rank card with Emmanuel Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez 2 and Rafael Espinoza versus Rabisa Ramirez 2. So tomorrow, the 7th, is actually going to be a really good night for boxing for hardcore fans. And we will be here and tomorrow night, and we will be here also next week for that No Limit card. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy and Big J at Old Mate Big J. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.